is. There's the on button. It's fun to see some people dancing in the back. That was nice. Good morning, everybody. I feel nervous this morning. I'm sorry. I was talking to a friend the other day, and it was Friday, and she's like, "So what do you got planned for the weekend?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to be preparing for my service." and she's like, "Oh, how is that? Do you like that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love it. I really love public speaking." And now I'm like, that's okay. Thank you so much for being here today. I really feel blessed to know you and to be able to be in your presence every week. And I really feel that that's not just a people thing, but that's really a God thing. And that God feels happy to be in our presence, and that when we recognize God's presence among ourselves and in each other and in our lives, then that's where true happiness comes in. So just want to begin with that. Today, we're continuing in our sermon series, which is in God's Calling for My Life. And this topic comes from this point in our vision. We are equipping every person for a significant ministry by helping them discover the gifts and talents that God gave them. So I'm sure if you've been here the last couple weeks, you've heard a lot about this already, about the value of us maturing to a point where we can take on representing God to other people by ministering to them in some way, shape, or form that we are uniquely called to. And part of that is that we do need to spiritually mature to that point. We need to grow ourselves. We need to pray. We need to read God's words. We need to work on relationships. Maturing through these aspects also of like small groups and then taking on a ministry. And last week, one of the points that Mike talked about was taking opportunities as a step towards coming closer to our ministry. So originally my topic was going to say something like, it was a very long structure. Oh, it was this one. Actually, I didn't change the title on my screen. Preparing for the future by taking opportunities in the present. So I'm going to be talking about opportunities. But what I actually changed my topic to, my title to, is prepare for the future, live in the present. And that is really coming more towards the heart of what I want to talk about. So when I was first thinking about what I could talk about in relating to this topic of how do we prepare for the future now, the first obvious thing that came to me was, well, we got to take opportunities that will take us in the direction we want to go. For example, my sister majored in biology, and she wanted to have a career in science. So when she was in college, she had an opportunity to take an internship working at a state park in California as helping like the ranger system and stuff. So that is, of course, if we have an opportunity that takes us in the direction we want to go, we want to take that. If we feel called to take on a ministry or a small group at some point, then if we have an opportunity to help serve in somebody else's small group, or for example, help out with the children's ministry, which is supporting our parents group today, then we can take those opportunities. That was the first thing I thought of, but then I also thought, I don't really need to tell people that. That's kind of obvious, actually. So I'm not really going to give my sermon on this topic of taking opportunities like that. For one reason, sometimes those obvious opportunities don't appear in front of us, or maybe they don't come along very often. What if you're called to do something, but you don't know how to get there yet? Or what if you don't even know what direction or what you are called to do? So to begin that off with, I have a quote. You've probably seen this one before. For we walk by faith, not by sight. And I want to clarify something. This doesn't mean that we shouldn't look where we're going, right? We shouldn't just like cover our eyes and walk. But if we can't see the way ahead. It doesn't mean we shouldn't move forward, but that we have faith that God is guiding us. And that if we open the door to God in our hearts, that God will guide us the way that we need to go. So, I guess the point is, what allows for that? We want to go somewhere. We don't always know how to get there. Maybe the path is foggy, or it goes through a winding forest. We don't know where the path is going to go, how we're going to get to where we want to go. But then how do we walk by faith? And how do we allow God to guide us? What I want to talk about today is the kind of attitude that we have in our daily life, in the present, that allows, not just creates opportunities for us, but actually creates opportunities for God to move in our life and to work in our life. So when I was reflecting on my life, I really didn't know what my calling was. I think I've mentioned before, I could not picture my life past 18 when I was a kid. I couldn't picture. I would think I should decide on what I want to do, and I'm like, well, I like animals, so I could be a veterinarian, or I like music, so I should play my bassoon, but it didn't call to me. I couldn't really see myself doing that. So I felt pretty visionless throughout my childhood, my adolescence. Eventually it came to the point where I did know that I wanted to create a beautiful, loving family. And I wanted it to be so loving and so beautiful that love just like spills out to everybody around us, and everybody just like gets sucked into it, and they feel like that they're all just part of this big, wonderful, loving family. That was like my first mission for my life. But even then, I didn't feel like I had a calling or like a mission or a way to do that. Not until I was actually doing it, until we were pastoring. So I didn't know what I wanted. But I do believe that God guided me here. And I do believe that there were certain things I probably could have figured, if I had been really awesome and I had been praying all the time, and if I had been really on point, I'm sure God would have opened my eyes a lot sooner. So I'm not saying that because I did everything right, this works out. No, but there were certain things that I was able to do or connect to that I feel God could grab, like, okay, she finally gets it. Let's move her on to the next step, you know? And so one of those things, when I was reflecting on my life, was when I was on my missions program after high school. We called it Special Task Force at the time, STF. And when you think of like a missions program or special task force, you might think of things like going to other countries and serving people or building schools. It really wasn't that romantic or exciting. And a lot of the times we were just asking for donations to support our causes. And we would do that day after day after day and after day for a really long time. And there was quite a few of us who went through those experiences. Some of you are sitting here. Many of you have done something similar before. And I think that when you go through challenging experiences, we all gain something different. For myself, what I really got was that I learned how to persevere. I learned how to keep going when I didn't want to keep going. And believe, I really did believe, though, that it would be worth it. I kept going, believing that it would be worth it. It would be worth it to me, it would be worth it to my life, and be worth it to God. And so even when people, I'd knock on somebody's door and say, "Hi, how are you? I'm doing a fundraiser," and the door gets slammed in your face, and it happens like 5 times in a row, then I still persevered. There are some people who did a lot better, and they had different experiences. But I realized that learning that kind of mental toughness and perseverance has benefited me so much in so many aspects of my life, including becoming a pastor. One of the first times I realized how beneficial this was when I was in labor with my kids. Because it just gets harder and harder and harder. And I thought, I'm so glad that I've done hard things before. So I know how to get through this, and I know that it's worth it at the end. I recognized it multiple times in our marriage, where we just don't seem to be seeing eye to eye, and it would just be so much easier if I just didn't have to talk to him at all. But I know that if we keep working on it, and if we keep working on it, and we keep working on it, it's going to be worth it. So for me, I realized that it was in showing up in difficult moments in my life that allow God to mold me or work on me to prepare me for what I'm doing now. Other people may have gotten other things. I know there were people that I mentored on that program, and mental toughness was not a thing that they were there for. But maybe they were there and they gained something about their family. They realized that they had to have honesty and openness with their parents. And that just getting that one single thing opened up a whole new future for their family that they didn't have before that. So I'm not saying that you have to get a certain thing. I feel like God works in our life with our situation to give us what we need. But I do know that there were also people who did not allow themselves to gain any benefit for their future from that program. I know that there are some people who feel that that was just a waste of my time. It was really hard, and it didn't benefit me. But here's the thing, we're all doing the exact same thing every day. So what is it that allows God to work in our life that maybe he can't reach some people who are doing the exact same thing? This is where I come to attitude. So I have a story from the Bible that I want to share that I feel like brings out some of these points. This is the resurrected Jesus' words to the church of, so I say this right, Laodicea, Laodicea. I know your deeds, that you are neither hot nor cold. I wish that you were either one or the other. So, because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth. You say, I am rich, I have acquired wealth and do not need a thing. But you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. I counsel you to buy from me gold refined in the fire. He's not talking about the metal gold. So that you can become rich. And white clothes to wear, so you can cover your shameful nakedness. And salve to put on your eyes, so you can see. Those whom I love, I rebuke and discipline. So be earnest and repent. Here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person and they with me. To the one who is victorious, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne, just as I was victorious and sat down with my Father on his throne. Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. I was looking into this a little bit more, and I found it very interesting that these are the ruins of Laodicea, and something that was unique about this town was that it was built at an intersection of two very big roads, and that's why it was built there, whereas most towns are built by water sources. But there was no water source near this town, so they built these incredibly complex aqueduct structures to like siphon in water from a nearby town or nearby place. I think it was like 6 miles away. And some people think that it was a hot springs that they piped the water in from, and that by the time the hot springs reached the town, it was lukewarm. And also you can see there's all these calcium deposits. There was so much calcium in this water that they were drinking. So when Jesus said you are lukewarm, it had a special meaning to the people of this town. So actually there's a lot of lessons in here for our spiritual life and our relationship with God. If I were to go through them, one is about being lukewarm. Be hot or cold. Don't be average. Another thing is that our spiritual treasures are greater than our physical treasures. Another is tough love. He says, to those whom I love, I rebuke and discipline. So it's okay to get tough love sometimes. And then, if you open the door to me, then I will come to you, and that we can share together. This town was in more of an eastern country or eastern part. They considered it Asian part of the area, and for them, this eating together is like a very meaningful thing to do. So there are a lot of things that you can gain simply from this verse, but I want to focus in on a couple of them. First of all is this one. Here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person and they with me. So what I get from this is that God is ready. I am here, ready to reach into our hearts, ready to forgive us. God wants to be close with us and share his heart with us. God is also ready to guide us in a good direction. God is ready to guide us towards our calling or our ministry. But also, he says, I stand at the door and knock. He's not going to barge in and just sit down at our table. We have to give God the opportunity. We have to open the door in order for God to work in our lives. So we need to give God an opportunity. This reminds me of, there it is. This reminds me of this very familiar verse I'm sure you've heard. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks it will be opened. It's a little bit on the reverse, whereas in the first verse God is knocking and we open the door, but also we have a responsibility to knock on God's door. He'll open it. Every day of our life is an opportunity in this way to invest and to give our best and to give God an opportunity to work in our life. But this is what I get from this. God is concerned about our heart, how we show up with our heart every day. Not like it says in the first thing I shared, I have riches, everything I could acquire, I have all I need. And also reminds me of how in my missions program, we were all there doing the exact same thing every day. But for some people, God was able to speak to more than others. It's not the thing that we do, but it's the attitude or the heart that we have that allows God to work in our life. But this is the great thing. This is the great thing about each day being an opportunity, because we don't have to feel, every day I have to do this to earn God's love. It's not necessarily about our accomplishments every single day, or that I am doing the right thing in the right place at the right time, but that my heart is there. if my heart is reaching out to God, if my heart is looking for the right thing to do, God will help me to find it. This is another part from the story that has to do with attitude that I really love. I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either one or the other. So, because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. Okay, who likes coffee here? Oh, let's be honest, come on. Who likes coffee? Okay, all right, great. So, who likes hot coffee? Show of hands, hot coffee. Okay, great. Who likes the iced coffee? Okay, not as many, but we like iced coffee. Who loves room temperature coffee? Better than hot or cold? Okay, you're ruining my point. No, just I personally can't stand, I have to drink my coffee before it gets to room temperature. I just won't enjoy it anymore. So the point is, and I think you can relate, God wants us to be hot or cold. And some would question, well, why would God want us to be cold? Because in this reference, it would mean that you're like negative against God. Why would God prefer that you be against him than be lukewarm and so-so? I have a couple other quotes. This is actually from our founder, Reverend Moon. What God doesn't like is the person who is lukewarm and has no determination. That person seems dead 12 months out of the year. This is why Revelation says to be either hot or cold, but not lukewarm, for that is the hopeless state. When I am preparing to go somewhere, I don't like everyone to go out after I do, waiting until I come downstairs. I like to see everyone come out first and take off before me. This is like a hot attitude. Revelations teaches that it is better to be hot or cold, but never lukewarm. Love works best in either heat or cold, but worst in lukewarm circumstances. I think, for myself, when I think about why would it be better to be cold than to be lukewarm? If you're cold, you know you're cold, right? I know that when I am physically cold, I need to do something to get warm. If I'm, like right now, I could be warmer, but I'm also not freezing, so I'm going to continue to wear what I'm wearing. But I'm actually not super comfortable wearing a sleeveless shirt. So I'm being kind of lukewarm right now, and it's not that great. I'm not doing anything about it. But I also know that when it comes to love or relationships, if I am cold towards Mike, I know I am mad at Mike. And something needs to change. So I'm going to do something about it. But if I'm like, that kind of annoyed me, but it's probably fine. And then the next day, something happens, and I'm like, it's all right. It doesn't make it, whatever, Then nothing ever changes. We can go on for months like that. We did the marriage course, and one of the things that we learned is that we're both hedgehogs. There's rhinos and there's hedgehogs. Rhinos will come out and they'll fight about whatever it is they need to fight about. Hedgehogs will just curl up in a ball and be a little bit prickly and hide our heads and pretend like nothing's going wrong. That's a recipe for months of not misery, but not happiness. That's lukewarm. And I'm very guilty of it. So this message is just as much for me as anybody else here. But I feel like it's so easy to fall into this lukewarm state. It could be with our spouse. It could be towards our work. It could be towards our children. It could be towards God. It could be towards my ministry. Because when we're lukewarm, we don't feel like anything needs to change. It's so hard for God to reach us in a lukewarm state. That's why God wants us to be hot or cold. He can do something with that. So that's what I feel when I'm talking about preparing for the future by being present in this moment. I feel like when I'm lukewarm, I'm not usually really fully present. I'm kind of ignoring what's happening right now. But God is calling us to be fully present in this moment. And if it's not a happy moment, it's okay to be cold. But we can be hot too. And God can, from that point, we may not know what direction he's going to take us in. We might have to walk by faith and not by sight. But when we show up fully, God can take us on our next step towards preparing for his calling for us, for our future ministry, whether we know what it is yet or not. I have this quote. This isn't from the Bible or anything. I don't really know who the person is who shares it. But I found it I first saw it in the kitchen of my sister's parents-in-law's house. And if you happen to know my sister's father-in-law, his name is Michael Lampson. He is the person who I know who embodies this the most, and so it's really stuck out to me. Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride." I feel like I'm not there yet, but my sister's father-in-law is, so I feel like I can share that because of him. But it just helps to bring the point that I'm trying to share a little bit deeper, or a little bit more really. What I do think of, though, in my experience was, and I think I've shared this before, but when I was on my missions program, I had a leader, a group leader, and he was always saying things like, "Okay, today is such an important day. You have to do your best today. Give your best to God today, because this is such an important day." And then I'd be like, "Okay, all right," and I do my best. And then, the next day was like, "Okay, now, today is such an important day. You got to give your best today." "Okay, all right, yeah, I'll give my best." And then the next day was like, "Okay, today is such an important day." I'm like, all right. But aren't they all the same? And I kind of thought it was a little bit funny for a while. I was like, well, they can't all be such important days because you said yesterday was important, so was this one more important than yesterday, or is it maybe a little less important than yesterday? And I kind of laughed at him in my head for a while, but what I got later on is, isn't this the most important day of our life? We don't have yesterday anymore. And tomorrow isn't here yet. So this is the most important day. What's today? January 27th? This is the most important day for all of us. So how are we going to show up today? Are we going to float through? Yeah, it's okay. Go downstairs after service. Oh yeah, that was a nice service. It was very nice. Yeah. I mean, if you're cold about the service today, well, that was totally off point, then okay, be cold. Let me know. Talk to me about it, and you're probably right. But be cold or hot. Don't be lukewarm. I think it's kind of almost ironic that one of the best ways that we can prepare for the future is by living fully today. The attitude that we have, the passion that we carry, more than trying to create an opportunity for myself to advance forward, it's more of an invisible thing. Our attitude is creating an opportunity for God to take me forward in the direction that I am called to go by him. I have one more quote for you. I'm going to wrap this up with this. And this is from Reverend Moon as well. And I just love this quote. Try to focus on today, on this very moment. And if you are alert and winning the very moment you are faced with, you will set the pattern for being a victor your whole life through. I'll leave you with that. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Parent, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. Heavenly Parent, I feel very grateful to have had the opportunity to talk on this point, because I know I need it, God. I know you're talking to me very much through this service. And your soul is on fire, God. There may have been times when you didn't want to see what was happening in this world. You wanted to just ignore it. I'm sure you wanted to just feel everything was okay. But God, you never abandoned us. You never abandoned your children. You never abandoned humanity. You've got a soul on fire for us, God, and you will never give up on us. God, we want to return that to you. We don't want to live in ignorance of your heart on fire for us. Please be with us today. I usually say be with us this week, but I want to talk about today. Please be with us today. Wake up our hearts and our soul. Show us something that we haven't seen that may have been right in front of our eyes. And I pray that when we see that, then we can respond, hot or cold. God, and that this can be the first day of many where we're not lukewarm to you. God, you need people with souls on fire. I believe that this world is so prepared, so yearning for true love. This world doesn't know what it is yet, doesn't know what it looks like, but they're dying for it. And that something just as simple as showing up each day can allow you to work through us to reach farther than we ever thought we could. Heavenly Parent, we may feel inadequate. God, we're not mature yet. We're not really ready. We have a lot of growing to do. But I pray that we can not give up on ourselves. We can keep moving forward. We can respond to the knock that you're knocking on our hearts. And just believe that and trust you that when you knock on our door, that you're going to bring something into our hearts. You're going to take us somewhere. You're going to lead us in the direction that you are calling us to go, and that each and every one of us will come to a point where you are working through our lives. You are ministering to people. We are changing this world through us. God, thank you so much for your incredible love and patience with us. We fall short many times. We may fall short again, God, but I know that your love and forgiveness is there, and we just need to pick up and keep going. God, thank you so much. We love you. I offer this prayer in my name, Michael and Donia Hentrick, blessed and family. Amen, and adieu. Thank you.